The Catholics of Oz is brought to you by the Star Quest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give.
You're listening to episode 30 of The Catholics of Oz. The Catholics of Oz is a show where we discuss faith, culture, and what's been happening from an Aussie perspective. Whether it's synods or science, apostolates and apps, providence or productivity, you can hear it right now on The Catholics of Oz. Hello and welcome to episode 30 of The Catholics of Oz. My name is Lindsay Sant, your host, and we're recording very close to Easter, and by the time you're listening, it will be the Easter weekend. So happy Easter to all of you. For today, I'm joined by Jerry Trapnell. How are you going?
G'day, Linz. G'day, everyone. How you going?
Going well. And of course, my sister Caroline, who hasn't got that metronome issue sorted out yet. Caroline, how are you?
Hello, Lindsay. I'm fine, thanks. How are you?
Great. And we have a special friend and guest who's joining us today as well. This is our very good friend, Lino Sabol. Lino, how are you?
I'm good, Lindsay. How are you?
I'm going well, thanks. And it's good to have you joining us. We all used to podcast a long time ago, and it's good to have you back with us and have doing some episodes with us. So welcome aboard, Lino.
Oh, it's been such a long time, guys. I can't remember the last time. Actually, I do, but I can't mention it here because there was a different sort of way we had to do it back in those days.
Yeah, so, we won't mention any role plays or any...
That's true. That is true.
Yeah, already animals boarding ships 2x2. We'll leave that out. Yeah. Although for people who are listening who aren't sure about what that in-joke is, we did appear on an episode of Let's Talk where we did talk about our Noah's play. So if you want to find out the story about that, you can find it there, because we definitely don't want to go back to that today, do we? So before we begin our discussions for today, just a reminder for everyone that you can like and share our episodes straight from SQPN's Facebook page and also its Twitter feed. So any episodes of ours that are published, there'll be a reminder on those platforms that they're there. So if you share those and put likes on it and leave comments, it helps other people to find us, and it helps us to grow our community a little bit more. Don't forget to also contribute to our discussions. This isn't just our discussion, this is your discussion too, and we are really excited about what people have to say about the things that we talk about. To get episodes, the current ones, the previous ones, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, or your favorite podcast app. SQPN also puts all of its episodes on YouTube, so just go to SQPN on YouTube and hit the bell to get notifications when new episodes of all the shows come out, including The Catholics of Oz. And also, if you could help us out, we'd like to get noticed by more people. So if you could leave us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast directories with comments about about things that you enjoy about the show, it will help us to grow our community and to reach more people. And I should also add that if you have a Home Assistant, a Google Assistant, or an Amazon Echo, I wanted to make sure I said that without saying the wake words. You can also ask to listen to our shows that way as well. So we're going everywhere. And again, Caroline, I'm not going to do a live demo because I know it's going to be a disaster. So I'll when I feel the courage to know it's going to work, I'll try it out one day. Yeah. So
yes.
For today's show, we decided we wanted to be a bit more casual in this show. So we're not going to have segments so much. So we won't be bringing out a Faith Beyond Borders or something personal, any of those. We just, because it's Easter, what do people do at Easter normally when they're not trapped at home in social distancing and things like that? They get together, they meet again, they have a nice meal, they might party, family members get together. So we thought we'd just get together as friends, sit around the virtual podcasting coffee table. We've all got our coffees, so I've got my Yoda mug here, which people can't see, but which I'm just showing to everyone else in the camera. I was just complaining before that I normally order coffee pods, but I don't have any left, so I was using a sachet of coffee. It's a latte one. I'm calling it my sachet latte, and it's terrible, but I'm drinking it. But I'm still getting a buzz from it. Yeah, Lino, what are you drinking today?
Coffee, but unfinished. But it's from what is it called? Incredible Hulk. I have no idea where I got this mug from, but it looks pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
I'm sure you've had that mug since you were 5 years old. Could you hang on to it there?
By the looks of the artistry, yeah, it's from the 60s.
And Caroline, what are you drinking, and what are you drinking from?
Oh, I feel a little bit more refined than you guys at the moment. I have a lovely painting by Van Gogh on my mug.
Ooh.
And I'm drinking a very relaxing chamomile tea. So
Chamomile.
Very nice. I don't feel worthy. And Jared, what
You're not. No, you
refines what refines?
Oh, here we go.
There we go.
Sibling rivalry coming
It's already
out there.
started, yeah. And Jared, what refined drink are you drinking, and what are you drinking it from today?
I'm feeling really deprived. I'm drinking cold water from an unmarked bottle.
That's it. Hydration matters, people. So Jared's probably setting the best example. Yeah.
With the longest face.
Yeah. So those giggles and that boisterous laughing is our friend Lino. And so Lino, just very quickly, just thought, do you want to just tell the audience, our listeners, a little bit about yourself before we get into the show today?
Yeah, no problems. So my name is Lino Sabol. I'm 42. Whoa, wait a minute. 41. Turning 42.
It's all right. Jared's a numbers person. You'll be fine.
That's right. Yeah, okay, cool.
He'll catch you out. He'll fact check you on that.
Yes, he will. 1978 to 2020. But
Life has just begun.
Yes, it does. Yes. Yes. So I was born in the Philippines. Came here to Australia when I was 3 years old. Did my primary school at Holy Family Dufton. From then I went to St. John's in Dandenong. And majority of your listeners probably won't know that Caroline and I have been to school together for majority of our lives. And
I think you and I, out of us four, have known each other the longest. I mean, Lindsay and my brother, of course.
Yes.
But I
Exactly.
mean, I think I've known you longer than the other guys because we met when we were 5 years old.
That's right. That's right.
And we went did all our schooling together,
we did
didn't
all
we?
the schooling together. We did.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Well, good memories.
Yeah.
Knowing Lindsay and Jerry from youth group, and from a personal point of view, I think youth group really helped me with my faith, because after high school, I guess I was sort of drifting away from it. And I'm not saying my parents weren't strict on my faith, but I think with the youth group and friends with that, they'd helped me with that. And it's just how it's been going. So yeah, I'm just a humble Victorian here, and an Australian. And yes, for all those Filipino communities out there, no, I cannot speak any Filipino. I am fully Australian. So majority of what we're speaking at home was English. But look, I'm still happy where I am and what I'm doing, and with everyone around me, I'm totally blessed.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks, Lino. Although there's not many, I guess there's not many people around that we're all a bit isolated, but we'll hopefully be able to get back to doing that again at some point.
True,
Yeah.
that is true.
Yeah.
That is true.
Yeah. So, the four of us, for people listening, obviously Caroline and I are siblings, but we're all really close friends and family, and we're all involved in each other's lives, and we all go to we went to each other's weddings and kids' parties and the whole lot. So, and we all go to the same church and celebrate there together. Although this morning we all celebrated digitally because that was that was the option we had.
Actually, together online, didn't we?
Yeah. And there's a lot of online relationships going on at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in a good way for once.
That's true. That is true. That is true.
Lindsay and Caroline,
Yep.
since we're doing this casual, we don't have to rush straight into the next segment or the first segment. Is there anything you guys think we should fill in that Lino might have missed out on in his introduction?
Oh well,
I think something about a beautiful Maltese wife.
I'm sure there's someone who might listen to this and be a little bit upset if she's not mentioned. Lino, you might want to hint your wife.
Have no fear than a Maltese wife. I can
Yes.
tell you that. Oh, probably Sorry, Dom. You probably edit this out anyway.
Yeah.
But,
No, I think Caroline might agree.
I just wanted to remind you because she's one of my Maltese sisters, so I have to
good.
put a word in for her so that you remember her. Otherwise, you may face the wrath later on.
Yeah.
I have to face the wrath for majority of this isolation, Caroline. So
I'm sure I'm
it's
sure you're having a lovely time. It's not that bad.
Yeah, it is. Well, how do you say "I love you" in Maltese?
Yinan hobok.
That is so
doesn't sound
romantic.
it doesn't sound very.
It's
yeah,
really
no.
It's like the most unromantic way to say it out of all of the languages on the earth, on the planet. I think.
What do the French have, like, je t'aime l'amour?
J'adore. Yeah.
And we're like,
Yeah.
I mean, Aussies are not too bad. I mean, we can go, I love you. It's not too bad, but then Maltese like, hobbock. It sounds like,
hobbock.
it's like making me lunch.
Arabic
I don't know. It sounds like,
derived,
yeah.
so
That's true.
it's a little
sounds
bit,
a bit like Klingon, doesn't it? It's very good.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
You had to go there.
Yeah. Had to go there.
I would say
Yeah.
it sounds a bit like the rest of the Maltese language, angry.
Yeah.
I know. Every
Or
time
passion,
you hear
with
it
great passion.
is. Every
Yeah.
time you hear I don't know how many of you guys listening have heard a Maltese conversation, but you can just be having a normal conversation, and
Yes.
people who don't understand Maltese may think that you're arguing. It's like,
Yes.
no, this is just how we speak.
Talking
Just how
about
we
the
talk,
weather, I'm
yeah.
not threatening to kill him.
Yeah. Yeah, no, seriously. And like Maltese, really, I mean, they're very compassionate, beautiful people and things like that. But just when they talk, when they have a passionate conversation about anything, it can
Yeah.
sound like they're arguing, but they're not.
And the arms going everywhere. I mean, it's like,
I can remember, and Caroline,
Yeah.
you might remember this too. Remember when we were young and we'd say to mum and dad, stop shouting at each other, but they were actually
Yeah.
just having a conversation in Maltese. Yeah.
Oh no, I've got another good little story. When Phil, my husband, he's just a gentle, sweet, quiet New Zealander.
Yes.
And
yes.
His family are very quiet and lovely. They're just very calm people. And when he first came to my house, like we went and like sat in the lounge room and were watching TV or whatever, and then he hears my parents speaking, and he's like, "Oh, what are they arguing about?" I'm like, they're not arguing.
Yeah.
They're just talking. It's like they were
Yes,
saying something
that's exactly right. Yeah.
mundane, and I'm like,
Yeah.
they're not. And then I thought, you know what? If he makes it through this first night, like,
Yeah.
and doesn't run away, then we're in for a chance. But I wasn't sure.
You could say in Maltese, I'm going to the shops, and it sounds like a declaration of World War III or something, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just
Yeah. So, oh my god.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's roll. And now that we've mentioned Lino's beautiful wife Bernadette, hey Bernie, if you're listening. Yeah.
She's a beautiful soul.
She's
I
a
love
wonderful
her.
person.
She's a
Absolutely.
beautiful girl.
Absolutely.
She loves us all. She loves us all.
She does.
Yes. Yeah. All right. So why don't we get into talking about a couple of things? So first of all, now this will be a while ago by the time people listen, but I think this is probably something that we really should hang on to. I've seen some people describe it on the internet, and I think even our CEO, Don Bettinelli, I think he did on Facebook mention it this way as well. But several commentators said Pope Francis has said many things during his pontificate. He's produced a lot of encyclicals, made a lot of statements about a lot of different topics and challenged people on things. But they say that the defining moment of his papacy will be most likely his Ubi et Orbi blessing, which he did recently. So for anyone who, I'm sure most people who are listening would know about it, but if you don't know much about it, this was Pope Francis's blessing to his Diocese of Rome and to the world, especially for people who are suffering because of coronavirus, but also for people who are helping, who are trying to make a difference in this situation as well. So he said a prayer, and the imagery I think was striking and beautiful. It was both somber and uplifting at the same time. There were so many things going on, but just wanted to get a whip around the virtual table about what you guys thought about. I know that we've all had different degrees of viewing either highlights, reading some of the prayers, watching the whole thing from start to end. I didn't watch it live. I did watch the whole thing later because it was at 4:00 in the morning Australian time, and there's only so much I can do with waking up early. So I did watch the whole thing, and I'll talk about that a bit later on. So Caroline, maybe I might just throw over to you. What did you get from your impressions of what you're exposed to from it?
Okay, so I did manage to catch just a little bit because sometimes at night I don't sleep well, so I put the radio on. I happened to have it was one of the Catholic stations on, and they were streaming it, so I got to hear some of it live, which was great. But then I didn't obviously catch it all because I fell asleep again. But so I have watched the catch up on YouTube. Not the whole thing, just snippets of it. But I think it was so beautiful. It was just, I don't know, it really struck me because it really got to me in an emotional way because, the setting. So it was like Pope Francis out there on a stage. There's no person at all in sight. It's raining. It's dark.
Even him walking up the stairs in the rain Oh my
Yes.
gosh, it was all so powerful, wasn't it? Yeah.
It is like he was alone in a way, but his mind was on everybody in the world. And it's like he had that weight on him and that he was really thinking of everyone and praying for everyone. And, as he was stopping in front of the crucifix and there was a beautiful picture of Our Lady and, he was praying. And then when he actually did the blessing and he pointed it out the door. And so he was like pointing the blessing everybody and by himself. I just thought that was so beautiful because, he really was concentrating, really meditating and praying for everyone. You could see how his heart was going out to everyone,
Yeah.
and how that you could really see that all the ill people, everybody who was sick and dying were really on his mind, and that he was really trying to bless everybody. And I'm sure he was like praying that this pandemic stop so that people will not be ill and will stop dying in such large numbers. So, but yeah, it got to my heart. It really, really was emotional. I shed a couple of tears watching it. It was so
absolutely.
so beautiful. So, those are the main things I got from it.
Yeah. Jerry, how about you?
All right. Yeah. So I watched less of it, more focused on the highlights. Looked at the Rome Reports video amongst a couple of others that we sent through, really just to get the English translation on a few things, as well as, went through the, what do they call this? The extract of the homily.
Yep.
In English. One of the things, or probably the thing I found the most comforting, was how he talked about us all being in the same boat.
Yes.
So his words were just like the disciple, and he compared it. So they said they got the reading specifically for this ceremony.
Yes.
The reading of the disciples on the boat in the storm, where I've got to find this spot here. Okay, yeah, on the boat, all of us. So just like the disciples who spoke anxiously with one voice, saying, "We're perishing." And we've realized that we cannot go on thinking of ourselves, but together we can do this. So it really talks about how we are just like those disciples, and Jesus is still Jesus. That we are on a boat, we've been hit by a storm, which is this virus, unexpected, unplanned, and we're struggling. We're calling out to Jesus saying, Lord, don't you care about us? We are perishing. And so it goes on a little further to show Jesus' response to it, again, which I'm probably going to have to find because...
Well, while you're finding it, his first response was that he was asleep in the boat, which was interesting place to put Jesus in the story before he even responds and says anything. Yeah, so did you find your spot?
Well, that was essentially, and then he said, do you think I don't care? Why are you so afraid? Have you no faith?
Yeah. Yes.
That was where I was up to. Looking for anyway.
It's a very relevant gospel, not just because it's people who are in a calamity, but also because of a story about calling out to God and what God's response is. And it is have faith, hang in there. There are a lot of really powerful things there. Lino, what impressions did you get from the Pope's blessing?
Almost the same as Caroline, especially when Pope Francis is walking by himself up to this, was it stage or where he sits?
Yeah.
And it was, like Caroline said, it was just so sober, maybe because of the music as well, just the way it was with him, with that together. And what struck me was when you did the benediction, is that correct, Lindsay?
Yes, at the end, yeah.
Yeah, raised the body of Christ towards towards the outside. And we all know that Italy has been struck so bad with it.
Yeah.
And you can feel him so, I don't know what feeling he has, just sadness, but he has that strength of blessing everyone out there. It's just the imagery of I only watched the highlight and it was just enough for me. It was just enough for me to feel that he felt alone. He felt that he needed more strength in him, and he has, and he's able to do it. And of course, praying in the picture of Mother Mary, and just him. It was like you guys saw. It was just him. There's no bodyguards. There's no altar servers. There's no cardinals. It was just him, and it almost feels that I almost had an image of Jesus with him there. Just Jesus just walking by himself there and blessing everyone else by himself. But now I had to watch it a couple more times. I don't know. I don't know what feeling I felt when I watched it. Do I feel sad? Do I feel alone with Pope Francis there, or do I be with Pope Francis over there doing the prayers, being with everyone as Dane saying the prayers with everyone there, and it's just yeah. I also felt there was so much weight on him as well too.
Yes.
I don't know. I'm not that kind of weight that you put like like fatness weight, but physical weight. But I don't know. Is it mental or spiritual? I don't know. It was a thing.
I agree with that because he was trying to do something, I think, to comfort not just 1.2 billion Catholics around the world, but everyone else too. This was clearly a blessing for the whole world. And you could see, like, on his face, this wasn't an act. You know, I mean, people could perform something like this and perform it pretty well, right? But this wasn't just a ritual for ritual's sake. There was a lot going on in here in terms of meaning. My thoughts, guys, is that this is, for me, it was a really well-constructed liturgy that you literally followed. We, like Lino said, we walked with him. We accompanied him along this. So up the stairs in the rain, then we're sitting and listening to him as he's doing his sermon, which I think hit it out of the park. It was an amazing sermon, which I'll say some things about in a moment. Then he goes to that icon of Mary, which is held in the Cathedral of Mary Major, which I'm just going to boast I've been there. Anyway, but it's Italy. In 2016 was a holiday, and it's just by chance that we happened to be there. I wasn't looking for it. But, praying in front of Mary, first of all, for her protection. Then he goes to that cross, and it's an old cross it was made by a saint and paraded during the time of the Black Plague for prayer and protection as well. Then he goes to the to pray in front of the Blessed Sacrament, and they do the all the prayers. There's hymns. There's the litany of the Blessed Sacrament, and the divine praises and all that. And then he holds, he elevates the Eucharist up for the world. And that image is striking. And Lino, when you said you didn't know what you felt, I agree. Like what there, I think it's because there were so many things to feel at that time. Because there's encouragement, but there's also sadness, and then there's joy that this is Jesus who's here with us. And then That's correct. And then there's uncertainty about how long this is going to go for. So that there was so much, and I think he, all three of us, all four of us have talked about a type of emotion or a type of theme or idea that's come from this, and I think he's carried everything that we all had at once in that moment when he's elevated Christ, and really in a way maybe we've put that all on Christ in that sense, and it's powerful because what did he in his sermon he was telling us to give it all to Jesus in the boat. Jesus says to the apostles, he doesn't say straight away, yeah, I'll fix the storm, no worries. He says, where's your faith? Where's your faith? And it's interesting because Pope Francis, he doesn't immediately offer words of hope and encouragement in his sermon. He says that this time that we're in now, with everything that's happening, it's actually stripped us bare back to who we are. We've lost the things that we do, the schedules that we have and the things that we fill our day with. And now we're being challenged to think about what we do fill our day with. What are we actually doing?
That's so true.
Yeah. And he's asking, were we actually prepared? In the things that we do in our lives, were we prepared? Spiritually, things like that, or not, or what else do we need to do? Now he said some amazing things. Like where was he? He said it's not a time of your judgment, but of our judgment. So a time to choose what matters and what passes away. A time to separate what is necessary from what is not. It is a time to get our lives back on track with regard to you, Lord, and to others. We can look to so many exemplary companions for the journey who, even though fearful, have reacted by giving their lives. And I think he's calling us to a greater sense of faith, a greater sense of stepping up now. And like, for example, he says, we're not idolizing now suddenly. We're not idolizing you know, people who make headlines, people who are on catwalks of the latest show, he says. But the people that we're actually celebrating right now, he says, are the heroes of our time: the doctors, nurses, supermarket employees, cleaners, caregivers, providers of transport, law and order forces, volunteers, priests, religious men and women, and so many others who have understood that no one reaches salvation by themselves. And I might just read this concluding statement where he says, Lord, may you bless the world, give health to our bodies and comfort our hearts. You ask us not to be afraid, yet our faith is weak and we are fearful. But you, Lord, will not leave us at the mercy of the storm. Tell us again, do not be afraid. And we, together with Peter, cast all our anxieties onto you, for you care about us. And that's a really striking conclusion, I think. So there was I could talk about this for hours, but I won't. But there is so much to unpack from this beautiful liturgy. And I really encourage people to watch it if they have time from start to end. It'll be in our show notes today. For our part, I said to my family, we're going to watch this, or at least, I didn't make them sit through all of it, but I said, when it comes to the Pope's blessing, let's all receive it together. So I watched it from start to end, and I was, that my family were all in the room doing different things, and I call it, oh, look, he's praying in front of this cross, and this cross was for this, and he's doing this now. So I was kind of telling them, so they're kind of half listening. And then we all stood in front of the TV as a family, and received his blessing. And it was, back to the way that you guys all described it, was just beautiful. So, I'd encourage anyone who's listening to watch, at least start with the highlight reels and get drawn into it, because it's something I think we shouldn't forget so easily. If this is 6 months that we're doing this, or 7 months, or whatever months it's going to be, this is something I think that can carry us along that journey. Yeah. So why don't we move to something a little bit lighter? So there was this great article. It was produced by Father Nicholas Pierce, who's the parish priest of that other Holy Family. So Holy Family in Mount Waverley. Yeah. So not our home parish. But it was called Tips from Saints for Working at Home. So he basically got some things that saints have said and some holy people have said, and he's used it as tips for all of us who are facing the prospect of working at home. So quick whip around the room. Caroline, you've been working at home. Is it on a full-time basis now, or are you in and out of work? What are you doing?
I am still working my normal part-time hours, and I work 3 days a week. And so I'm doing that from home now. I've been doing it for, I think I've been doing it for about 3 weeks now, because our office kind of hurried to get us out of there. And yes, but we will be actually reducing our hours by 20% or so to try and help save the company some money.
Right,
because,
of course. Yes.
Yeah, it's not doing too well.
Yeah.
I guess like a lot of other places. So I'm not sure if I'll be working by the end of this, but we will see.
Yeah, something that a lot of people are thinking about at the moment. Yeah. Jared, what's your work home situation like at the moment? Are you fully at home, fully at work, bit of both?
Bit of both. So I'm set up to be able to work from home with the phone. A lot of things are on the internet now in the accounting and financial world, but not everything. So sometimes I have to traipse back to the office, spend a day there just moving things around, doing things on software that's specific to the computer that's there. But I think especially if this is going to keep on going and going, as an office and a firm, we have been planning to move to the cloud, and this has sort of hurried that up a lot.
Yes. Yeah, of course. And Lino, how about you? Are you still physically at work at the moment, or are you at home a bit too?
Because we work in a warehouse, I'm not 100% sure how the warehousing business is doing. We're still working there because goods are still coming in and out. In and out from. Can I say it, Lindsay? Yeah, it's still
coming from in and out. Yeah, you can say where
from China
products are coming from.
Yeah, from China.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, the shipping's happening from there. It's all good.
Shipping coming in there. And we still have to send because I work in a company called Arrow Electronics, and we sell computer components. So anything in PCB boards like semiconductors and blah 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 and IC things that make a whatever they want to make. Because majority of that stuff we do is also healthcare. stuff.
Yep.
So monitors, respirators, anything in the hospital sort of side of things.
Yes,
We
yeah.
still supply parts for those sort of equipment still too. So basically, we still have to be up and running. Of course, we send stuff for other components as well. Hopefully not for a Terminator, but anyway. So yeah, we're still working, but it is slow, and it can get busy. It's up and down for us. Of course, the office where the people on the desks, there's no one there, all except our
Sure.
warehouse manager. He still has to take
Yeah.
calls and everything, but there's only one person upstairs, and there's about 3 or 4 of us out of 6. So it's 2
Yep.
people away. But we're still working.
Yep.
Which is it's a good thing.
Yeah, and doing important work from the sounds of it too.
Yeah, well, we sort of have to keep on going because trucks will still come in with goods.
Yes.
And we can't actually leave it outside of the car park.
No, bad
so
idea.
So we go,
Yeah.
oh, no, we gotta grab
So
those.
do you practice social distancing in the workplace? How does that work in your warehouse?
Oh, it has been okay, Caroline, because with the warehousing, you got the normal with the inward goods and dispatch area, and I'm by myself in the inwards goods, sorry, and the next person next to me is about maybe 2 meters away, on another workstation. For the dispatch guys, one person is 2 meters away, but then there's a person here. Oh, I can't really show on the to say on the radio, but the next person and the next person together are about a less than 1 meter away, so they'll have to move the packer away from that workstation and work out things like that. But one of our workers almost had a heart attack last week.
Wow.
When she had a heart attack on Christmas, New Year's Eve, or during that time,
right,
just before
wow.
the year, and then she was complaining about it. So she's in hospital, and I'm going to shout out and give a prayer to Renuka, and I hope she goes well with that.
Yeah, she'll be in our prayers. Yes,
yeah. I hope she will be okay. I don't want to get too into it because it's not that kind of podcast.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
So she'll be away for a while. So there's social distancing between the packers. So that seems to be okay. We still go through the whole same thing with I was about to say hand sanitizers. All the little gel stuff. We still have to do that all the time.
Hand
great
washing
that you've got
everything.
some.
Oh yeah. We were just lucky. Trying to find some, and masks. We still. I don't know. 100% sure what we do with them much. I don't think we would wear them every time a truck driver comes. But there is one thing that happens is truck drivers tell us where the pallets are on the truck, and they go inside the cabin. They don't come out.
So you don't have any close contact with them.
Close contact with them.
That's probably very wise. Yeah.
True. With well, look, we get along with our truck drivers, and we sometimes have little jargon, blah blah blah. How you going? But now they tell us, oh, Lino or David or whoever's unloading him, those 2 parts for you. He goes into his truck. We take him off, pulls down his canvas, and he goes. And
fair enough.
It's
I'm sure there are a lot of people who can relate to that too. And just briefly, Lino, so you're not working at home, but we know that your spouse Bernadette has been doing a bit of work at home, but you've been her tech guy, so you've been setting up for her. So yeah. So how did all the setup go? Is she happy with how it's all set up now? Is she working successfully from home?
So far, so good. Like Caroline says, it depends on the internet. I can't do much that side of it.
I can relate. Yeah. Totally.
Good old NBN. Yeah.
And I was like, well, we were just talking before with texting. Like, I'm so jealous of New Zealand. They've got a fiber optic, whatever they call it, and they're so Nice. Oops, sorry, Dom. And also and I reckon
Actually, it's funny. I just cut in there. So I was listening to it's not the latest by the time people are listening, but it's the latest today. The latest episode of Raising the Bets, which came during the week. So this is a show, where Dom and his wife Melanie, talk about things too.
Cool,
and I think she did the same thing as you, and he ended up bleeping her out. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's a bleep coming
There's a bleep
for
coming.
you too. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, guys.
Yeah, it's all right. We're going to put
See
you in the
what
naughty corner later on.
We
don't worry.
invite you on and you just ruin the
I know
whole
you
thing.
come on as a friend, and there you are dropping words like
Low
that in our
equality.
podcast. Yeah, this is historic. Our 30th episode. And it might be our first bleep too. So there you go. Yeah, I told you this episode was going to be casual.
Yeah, very.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Lino.
So let's jump ahead. So we were trying to talk about Father Pierce. So Jerry, is there anything in Father Pierce's article that one of the tips or a couple of tips that you thought stood out to you as really useful?
Yeah. So the one I liked the most was the one where it wasn't actually a saint that said it. It was potential saint, maybe eventually, but not yet, Pope Benedict XVI.
Yes.
Where his quote was, "The world offers you comfort, but you were not made for comfort, you were made for greatness." Now that quote in itself
Great quote.
was wonderful, but then was it Father Nicholas Pierce? His first words in that section were, "Just because you can stay in your PJs till midday does not mean you should." I read that
True.
when we were planning for the episode, sitting on my bed in my PJs at 12:19 p.m.
Yes.
Okay, I better get dressed now.
And how many of you have gone to Sunday Mass in your pajamas recently as well, guys? Anyone?
No,
anyone done that?
I have to say no.
Yeah. So I've
Trackie-
been a good boy, and I've actually
Yeah.
because I like that tip.
No.
Yeah, I've well, trackies are a bit different. I was in my trackies for the last
Yeah,
one.
today I wore trackies. Yeah.
Yeah,
There you
trackies.
go,
Yeah,
there you go.
but
But a nice
I have
woolen
made
jumper.
a point.
It's true.
Yeah, well,
That's true.
Well, that's our weather.
Yeah.
I've made a point to get up and get dressed every day. I find
Yeah.
and shave and go through everything. As silly as it sounds, I'm not going anywhere, but I do find it motivates me to get things done more. Now, I haven't been chucking on a shirt for mass or anything like that, but I have been making sure that I've got my clothes for the day on rather than like my PJs and thongs or something like that. And I was just revealing that before the show started that so at mass, when we're having mass at home, I've been doing all the actions. So we've got hardwood floors at home. So I discovered the first week that kneeling on them was bad for my knees. And it turns out, here's my pro tip for everyone. Here's my little life hack. Your slippers, which I wore to mass, are really good for knees as a little homemade kneeler. So,
Little dealers.
so there you go. Use your slippers. Yeah, Jerry, was there anything else that you found that was useful or interesting?
Yeah. So continue on the same vein as you sort of said. Yes, I find that because whether I'm working from home or going into the office, the ritual in the morning is really something that gets you used to the day being a work day or being something you can do. And then the other one from Mother Teresa, I'm pretty sure someone else will cover her as well, but her quote was, "Yesterday's gone, tomorrow has not come. We only have today. Let us begin."
It's true.
And what I like about it, Father Nicholas Pierce's writing, is that he talks about finding something that's in your control, that the Lord has placed in your control. Because what I've always said about this pandemic, I'm in financial accounts, and I've always said when the market goes down, it's going to be something out of our control. I didn't think it would be this. I didn't think it would be now, because if I did, well, then I'd be a genius, a financial genius. And I'm saying
Yeah, true.
is that this is out of our control, and until it's in our control, we're going to feel that the fact that we can't control it means we're going to feel inadequate about it. So what he's saying here is that this is something in your control. Whatever you're doing at work, or even if it's not paid work, your role in the family or the home, that's what's in your control. The Lord's placed that in your control. That's what you should be focusing on.
Yes, yeah, that's a really good one. And Lino, you were saying before that one resonated with you as well.
Yeah, I like that. I like that from Mother Teresa. I know we remember yesterday. We always remember yesterday. Yesterday, this person said this and this person said that, and also tomorrow has not come yet. Yes, it hasn't come, but we generally have to be mindful that tomorrow will come, and we have prepared for tomorrow, and understand that too. And also, we have only today. That makes sense too, because like everyone would say to us, "Oh, you could probably sorry, make it so sober." probably may die tomorrow. And he goes, look, live as today, in a positive way as well. And then, and the last part is, let us begin. Don't sit on your laurels. Let us begin and work hard on this. So I like that saying. I like that saying.
Yeah, it's a good motivational thing for many of us who are, I guess, stuck mostly at home as well. Yeah, and Caroline, what about you? Any tips from there now that you're warming up into the working from home thing? Anything that resonates with you?
Oh, it's hard to choose which ones, but I guess they're so good.
Yes.
Like there's one, include times for breakfast, exercise, and prayer. So they refer to St. Francis de Sales quote here: retire at various times into the solitude of your own heart, even while outwardly engaged in discussions or transactions with others, and talk to God. So they're saying, be kind to yourself. Make sure you schedule in time for breaks, for prayer. Like at home, you can include more time for prayer, because who's going to see you praying at your desk at home?
That's right.
So,
Yeah,
like, it's harder to do.
True.
Like at work, you're like very conscious about, who's seeing me pray. But
yes.
but I find myself, I can, I'll put on something on the phone, and I can pray while I'm working. Include breaks, very important. I find that if I'm at home, I can easily just stay stuck to my computer until one of the kids obviously come in and I'm hungry or something. But I need a break for myself as well. So recently we just got chickens, so I go and have what I call chicken time, which I go because I'm trying to get them to know me and be friends with me and be familiar with me. So I'll go and sit outside with them, and and they talk to me, I talk to them. It's very cute. So that's a really good way of disconnecting from work for a minute and just refreshing the mind.
Nice.
And let me jump in there. There is a great video on Caroline's Facebook Facebook page of her herding chickens back into their cage, and it's fantastic. Yeah.
Maybe I should upload that on our Facebook page.
Yeah, put on your
I will. Everyone can
after
enjoy
this
that.
episode release.
You'll
Caroline
see
herding chickens.
Yeah,
it's great.
our backyard is still in progress, so excuse it. But
Looks awesome, Caroline. Looks awesome.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, so I think we're in for the long haul here. This is not going to be a 3-week thing. This might be maybe even a 6-month thing. That's what our leaders are saying here. So they're saying, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. So we've got to just kind of take a step back. Know that this is the new normal, and just, it says, don't forget to find ways to reach out to friends and colleagues as well, making time to connect via FaceTime, Zoom, or other, social media, and you can have virtual coffee and a chat. And actually, me and our sister Marilyn, we had a coffee over Skype last night, which was really nice.
Lovely.
So,
Lovely.
Yeah.
Nice.
And we the cousins of our kids all have a FaceTime around dinner time every night as well.
Yes,
So
they do. Yeah.
Which
Don't
is
they,
funny.
Jared? Yeah.
We all get jealous of each other's dinners, and it's quite fun.
That's right. They're trying to outdo each other now. Yeah.
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 So it's good. Just take your mind out of the situation, I think, is a really good tip.
Yeah, we'll talk about why you didn't invite me to that coffee last night later after the podcast. But in the meantime,
there was one tonight. Did I not tell you?
Whoops. Must have slipped my mind.
There's a new point now, like people connecting over the internet and not inviting others, and then if you find out you weren't invited, that's like a whole new thing. It's
So
like,
offensive. Oh wow.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. There were two that I liked a lot. One was, there's a quote by Saint Jose Maria Escriva, and it says, "Great holiness consists in carrying out the little duties of each moment." And Father Pierce's title for this one is "Turn Your Desk into an Altar." And he says, with the shutting of churches and with not being able to go to Eucharist, he calls it Eucharistic fast. It's a nice way of saying we can't receive Eucharist at the moment. But your desk becomes your altar, he says. It's here where you can sacrifice each day. So our desk becomes where we offer our sacrifices now, not the altar, because we, apart from what we see on, being streamed, we're not physically present there anymore. So it says at your desk, it's where your commitment to the little duties of study, work, etc., gives you a chance to grow in holiness and grace, which I love a lot. And I find that very comforting because even though I'm on school holidays, I'm getting ready for remote learning, not knowing whether I will be remote learning or not with my students. We actually don't know what teachers will be doing. Although by the time this podcast comes out, I've been told that there will be advice midweek from the state government about how teaching will happen in Victoria.
Wow.
But at this stage, I'm still waiting to find out. So I've been chained to my desk getting remote learning ready. And my desk has kind of been my altar. It's been my second home in a way, in a lot of ways. And the other one that he had here was from Cardinal Van Tuan. And he said, the quote was, "Jesus, I will not wait. I will live the present moment and fill it with love." And the heading was, "Offer your work up for others," which I think is great.
Yes.
So when you're working, he said, maybe stick photos and post-it notes of names of people and people that you love and that you're praying for, and put them on the desk or the computer screen, out of the way, obviously, and offer. But he says offer particular hours of work or study for those people. And I've got to tell you, because I've just started a master's degree in education and theology, and I've got a 3,000 word essay, which is going to be the focus of my week now. And so I will have many hours to offer people because I'm finding it challenging to find the motivation to start. I know what I want to do, but I need to get out the gate now, which is a hard thing for me. So the idea of offering up, and there's more motivation here. He says, don't forget to offer an hour of your work for doctors, nurses, and for other civil leaders at this time. So that kind of says when I get started, I can actually have a more useful purpose for my work than just try to get an essay done. So there's a bit of direction there. So that article will be in our show notes as well. And there's a lot more tips that we haven't talked about. So for anyone who is working from home a lot, if your desk has become your workplace, please read it because there are some great tips from the saints for working from home. So just a really brief one, because I'm just conscious of time, about what the church has been talking about in terms of how our ministry has changed, how ministry at all kinds of levels have changed. So we've all been obviously watching masses online. So the our parish priest and a lot of priests have got into online streaming. Some of it looking better than others, but it's all happening.
True.
I don't know if you all saw that video a couple of weeks ago about the priest who accidentally had filters left on his screen, and so he started masses,
so
lifting weights and looking like Blues Brother. It was fantastic. Yeah, so that's a great way. That is a great way to advertise your streaming masses and build an audience. I gotta say,
Totally.
Yeah. But our priests, I think, are quite brave at the moment, preaching to no one or preaching just to a film crew. I think it's quite brave. It must be hard staring down the barrel of a camera in an empty church and trying to do mass just like as always.
Yeah.
So there's been quite heroic about that.
And our priest, Father Michael, has said that he misses us being there with him. Yeah.
Yes.
We miss being there too. But we have to realize it's on their side as well. They actually miss having us there.
Now, this is an open question that we didn't prepare for, so if I get dead silence, I'm cool with that too. But are any of you aware in anything you've been reading or watching or seeing about how any type of ministry in the church has changed because of lockdowns and coronavirus and things like that?
I think the main one would be schools. So in Australia, they're Catholics. Essentially, the schools, I believe, are run by the diocese or take instruction from the diocese. You'll be better qualified to answer that. I don't know who pays your wage. I got a feeling it's the diocese, Lindsay.
Yeah. Well, it's sort of like part government funding, part diocese, part parent contribution as well. So,
but I suppose the end, so not where the money comes from. The money gets to you
so
from
the diocese.
So the parents don't walk up to you and pay you, and you don't get our Prime Minister wandering in with a cheque either. It's the diocese that pays you.
Yeah, no, if the day the parents come up and start paying me, we call that corruption. So that won't happen.
So my child's A+ degree that you're going to get.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so ultimately, the diocese is my employer.
People go to jail for that kind of thing.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. My wife might have a lot to say about that, so maybe a bad idea. Yeah, sorry, Jerry, go on.
So essentially, schools are one of the big things that the Catholic education has a fair bit of influence and stuff to deal with. So obviously, right down from what you're doing as a secondary school teacher, all the way down to the primary school levels where our children are.
Yes,
it's changing drastically, and it's still up in the air now. We've got kids going back to school in a week and a half or so, and we don't know.
Yep.
You don't know whether they're going to be you or them are going to be walking through the doors on that day back. We
Wow.
expect
Yeah,
probably not.
Yeah. Wow.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah,
really,
but-
we're going to be thinking it's probably not. But the scramble is going to be finding out what capabilities people have, what ability people have to send their kids to school, or even the ability of them to be able to have them at home, because sometimes there's two working parents in a family, and some of these are going to be the essential workers that we talked about earlier, the office
Correct.
workers, the civil servants, or the not the office workers, the medical and supermarket and people that if they don't do their job, then the rest of the infrastructure is going to
Crumble.
Oh, it slows the whole country down. That's correct. Yeah.
So yes, I'd say, just as you said, without notice, it's going to be the schools. The schooling for me is going to be the biggest. It's the biggest unknown factor, and I think it's also the biggest thing that they got to deal with.
Yeah. Jerry and Caroline, were any of your kids due for any sacraments this year?
Not yet. I've got a grade 2, but I think Frankie's grade 3, isn't he, Caroline? Which I think I did mine in reconciliation in grade 3. I don't know if they still do that 20-something years later.
I'm pretty sure it's grade 3. Damien, my son, is in grade 6, and he was due to do confirmation. We were actually thinking about next year, but he would have been doing it this year. But there are no confirmations. There are no sacraments happening this year.
Yeah.
But in an article that we have, Archbishop Peter Comensoli, he said that they're trying to prepare resources for kids to be able to do sacramental programs at home and have their parents as their educators. Caroline, I was just asking before, are any of your children due for any sacramental programs this year?
So Frankie will be making his reconciliation and Eucharist First Holy Communion next year. So luckily we don't have to worry too much.
Yeah.
So we'll just see how that progresses. I was just saying, Caroline, while you were out in Skype
I
limbo,
missed something,
Yeah, sorry. Archbishop Peter Comensoli, in the article that we've got in our show notes for today, he was saying that they're trying to prepare sacramental materials for kids at home, but to be taught in a way by their parents as well. So do this, your parents will do this. Yeah. So that's another way that ministry has changed. We've seen priests doing confession in car parks. Yeah, Jared, you've seen a couple of those.
Yeah, that was where would have been the other one. Would have been the administration of the sacraments. Yes, and
yeah.
Oh
yeah.
wow!
Car park confessional.
It's interesting because this is a time of the year where a lot of people, especially during Holy Week, want to go to confession. It's traditionally a time where priests are busier with confession than not. So. And you can't do it over the phone.
No, you can't.
You can't do it. You can't do it over Skype. It's got to be in person. So, it'll be interesting to see how priests deal with that. Some, I don't know what the status of this is, but some may, if they have permission from their bishops, do general absolutions, which can be done. So, for example, there are, I think it's the third rite of confession. Someone can correct me on that. But you can do a general absolution, and then as soon as someone can get to a confessional, they can confess their sins again, or at least any mortal sins or things like that. So yeah, that would be interesting to see how it goes. Let's roll on. Caroline, I'll leave this one to you. So this is so normally Caroline would have a serious, well thought out, intellectually prepared science topic. No, but today you don't have to try, Caroline, because our science topics, this one is quintessentially Australian, I think. And so we wanted to share this. Again, we're having a little Easter party here. So when you sit around the table, you talk about stories that are quite funny and things like that. Can you please tell us about the astrophysicist, Australian astrophysicist with a doctorate who managed to get magnets stuck up his nose? And before anyone says, what is this story they're talking about? It was in The Guardian. It's in the show notes. So we're not making this up. And
it's true.
And you may look this up yourself. It's a real thing. Caroline, give us a brief outline. It started with good intentions. What happened?
It did. So, I admire astrophysicists anyway. They're very intelligent people. I wish I could be one, but my maths is just not up to scratch. So, anyone who's able to do astrophysics, it's high up on my list there. So,
Are you good with magnets?
apparently they're not all, I don't all understand magnets and electricity very well. Okay. So there's a young Dr. Daniel Reardon. He's a 27-year-old astrophysicist. He's a research fellow at Melbourne University. And he had an idea that he would try and build a necklace that sounds an alarm on facial contact to maybe like help stop people touching their face during this, coronavirus pandemic we're going through. So he said, I'm just going to just quote him here because funny, I cannot say it any better than him. Okay.
Can't help but laugh.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he said, I have set up some electronic equipment, but no experience or expertise in building circuits or things. I had a part that detects magnetic fields. I thought that if I build a circuit that could detect the magnetic field we wore magnets on our wrists, then it could set off an alarm if you brought it too close to your face. A bit of a boredom in isolation made me think of that.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes.
But he goes on, I accidentally invented a necklace that buzzes continuously unless you move your hand close to your face.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's the other way around. Yeah.
So
it's great.
he goes on, after scrapping that idea, I was still a bit bored playing with the magnets. It's the same logic as clipping pegs to your ears. I clip them to
let me interrupt.
earlobes.
This is where it goes bad. Is when the person says, "I got a bit bored."
Yes.
That's the moment. Every time, guaranteed. That's the moment where it goes downhill.
Exactly.
What happened, Caroline?
And who hasn't tried putting magnets on their earlobes? It's quite fun. Like but the little tiny ones normally, not. Anyway, the ones he has. So,
and these weren't just any old magnets. These were, how do you pronounce it, neodymium, but they're really powerful ones.
Quite strong, yeah. So, so he goes, after scrapping the idea, I was still a bit bored playing with the magnets. It's the same logic as clipping pegs to your ears. I clipped them to my earlobes. Then I clipped them to my nostril and things went downhill pretty quickly when I clipped the magnets to the other nostril. He said he placed 2 magnets inside his nostrils, 1 and 2 on the outside. When he removed the magnets from the outside of his nose, the 2 inside stuck together. Unfortunately, the researcher then attempted to use his remaining magnets to remove them. At this point, my partner who works at a hospital was laughing at me, he said. I was trying to pull them out, but there's a ridge at the bottom of my nose you can't get past. After struggling for 20 minutes, I decided to Google the problem and found an article by an 11-year-old boy who had the same problem. Okay, so 27-year-old astrophysicist Googling, getting advice from 11-year-old boy.
Anyway. 11-year-old,
So the solution was in more magnets to put on the outside and pull from the inside. Anyway, as I was pulling downwards to try to remove the magnets, they clipped onto each other. I lost my grip, and those 2 magnets ended up in my left nostril while the other was in my right. At this point, I ran out of magnets. Before attending the hospital, Reardon attempted to use a pliers to pull them out, but they became magnetized by the magnets inside his nose. Every time I brought the pliers close to my nose, my entire nose would shift towards the pliers, and the pliers would stick to the magnet.
Magnets. Yeah.
It was a little bit painful at this point.
Oh, boy.
So off they went to the hospital, and his partner took him to the hospital where she worked because she wanted his colleagues to laugh at him.
Yes.
They have
support right there. Support right there. Thank you.
So they have a copy of the emergency medical discharge summary here, which I really would like to read out. So
go ahead.
Emergency department progress, 27-year-old male with FB in nose. 2 hours ago, had 2 neodymium, approximately 7 millimeters in diameter, strong magnets up bilateral nostrils, stuck to each other via septum bilaterally. Attempted removal. Tried using 2 other magnets up L, left nostril, ended up with 3 times magnets up L nostril, 1 up R, right nostril, all stuck via septum. Denies difficulty breathing, denies further magnets. So
How do you write a medical report like that and keep a straight face?
Keep a straight
Someone
face.
must have had
I
a lot
think
of
they
fun
had
with
a
that.
good time with this.
Oh,
Okay, so
oh my goodness me.
let's finish with what he said. Okay, so when they got the 3 out from the left nostril, the last one fell down my throat. That could have been a bit of
yes,
a problem if I swallowed
Yeah.
or breathed in, but I was thankfully able to lean forward and cough it out.
Cough it out.
Needless to say, I am not going to be playing with the magnets anymore.
Lesson learned. Lesson learned.
So I think if you're an astrophysicist,
Physicist?
stick to astrophysics
Physics,
because you're really
yes.
good at it. Really
Yeah.
good at it. Don't touch magnets. I want to know
Yes.
more about space. I want to know more about all of that stuff. So just leave the magnets to the side, okay?
And can I say, so please look at this article if you're listening. There's a great photo of him sitting in a hospital bed, and his facial expression says it all. It's deadpan, but you could just see in his eyes that they're
Don't.
taking a photo of me because I just did something really silly. You can
Yes.
see, yeah.
What a
It's
good
great.
sport, though, that he let
He's a good
them
sport.
do
Yeah.
this article on him. And I actually saw him and his partner being interviewed on TV.
Oh,
wow.
no.
I mean, like, he
Yeah.
made so. I don't think I could, like, I would find it way too embarrassing to be interviewed if I've done something stupid like
Yeah.
that. And, so, I mean, what a good sport. I mean, this is when, like, the science that I bring usually is, like, really serious and, all worked out, very, high caliber stuff, really intellectual stuff. So, I mean, I'm just saying that sometimes it can go wrong.
Once in a while, it might go wrong. Yeah.
And give us a
Especially when
good
you get
laugh while
bored.
it's at it. Yes. So, yeah, if you're
Yeah.
bored at home, don't try anything at home that you have no experience in. Like,
Oh.
yeah, just it's not a good time, guys, right? You don't even want to end up in hospital at this time. So,
No.
Definitely.
just
yeah,
in
definitely.
case, just in
Yes.
case. But yeah,
Yeah,
there
see,
you go. There's a bit of a
I can
laugh.
remember as a child maybe having accidents like that. I remember one time
Yeah.
I hid in a wooden cupboard. I think it was in your bedroom.
Oh,
I don't
yes.
remember. And
It
then
was
the
the
cupboard
wardrobe.
fell. Yeah, the
Yes.
wardrobe, and it fell, and so I
fell
was
on
trapped
top of
inside the
you.
wardrobe with the door side on the floor, so I couldn't get out. So
So you
I was in the
couldn't get
wardrobe
out.
going, "Help, help!"
Yeah.
But I wasn't 22 years old. I was a kid.
You were like 4 or something.
Oh,
You're
it was,
so
yeah.
little.
Yeah,
That's
I
funny.
can remember rolling out of my bed in the middle of the night as a young child. But Mum had
Once-
tucked the sheets in so tight that I was
Yes.
hanging off the side of the bed.
Yes, I
And
remember
again,
walking
yeah,
in and finding you
yeah.
asleep like that.
Yeah, but I was a child, I wasn't 22 years old. Yeah, yeah. Jared, can you think of anything in your childhood, that where an accident,
Or
you had as a child
adulthood,
that you
come
were-
on, it's
as-
fine.
yeah, as an adult?
That
Have you guys,
too.
Jared or anyone else, have you guys got any war stories to tell? Or
Well, no, I was going to more sum it up as the educational segment of this show is that you shouldn't be sticking magnets up your nose. It's not rocket science.
Rocket science.
It's
It's not
actually not.
astrophysics.
See
Yeah, it's
what
actually-
happens?
yeah, it's definitely not rocket science. Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny.
Easter,
Poor
everyone.
guy. I don't want to make
Before
too
I get
much
jumped
fun
on,
of
yes,
him.
astrophysics is different to rocket science, but I couldn't resist.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, no, good
Well,
call. Good call.
it's hand in
Yeah.
hand. Hand in hand.
Yeah. I can remember my son Damien getting a little ball. He put it in his nose and it got stuck in his nose. Now, I was overseas in Israel at the time too. And so
Yeah,
Isabel
I think
told me
you
the whole
remember that,
story.
yeah.
And luckily,
Yeah.
when they got to the doctor, that they were waiting for the doctor, it fell out on its own, which was lucky because he was struggling to breathe through a nostril. But he was 3 years old. Yeah. So, was it Daniel Reardon? Was that his name?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I want to salute him in this podcast for giving us this story because clearly
Yes.
he could see the funny side of it, and we thank him for giving us that too, which is
Yes.
good.
Yeah,
And look,
yes.
in all seriousness, happy that it was okay too. Happy it didn't get.
Yes.
Yeah, it wasn't worse.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And Caroline, we'll just make this one a bit brief, but there was a great YouTube video that you shared with us from
Yeah.
I think it was the 20th or 29th of March,
Yeah.
from Anne what was her name?
McLean.
McLean, thank you.
Yes.
Who has lived on the International Space Station? Is that correct?
Yes, that's
And
right.
has I have to say these are more relevant than I ever thought they would be when I started the video. Tips on living together in close quarters with people. So do you want to give us a quick summary of that?
Sure. So Anne McLean was in Expedition 5859, which launched in December 2018, and she was the flight engineer on that mission. She managed to do one spacewalk, which went for 6 hours, 39 minutes, and did some maintenance.
Cool.
She was supposed to be part of an all-female spacewalk later on in March with Christina Koch, who we've mentioned on the show before.
Yes.
But there was a spacesuit sizing issue. I think we spoke about that. They didn't actually have two female suit sizes. They only had one, so they had to put that off.
Okay.
Yes,
and
we talked about that.
male and a female ended up doing it later on. But anyway.
Yeah.
So she has made a YouTube video kind of speaking about the parallel of having to be isolated in space. You know, in the space station, you are isolated from Earth, basically. Like, that's a big isolation. And being isolated at home, you know, it's the kind of thing where you have to be in that space and you can't get out. So she said a few things about that. So she said, firstly, it's okay to not be okay. It's a hard situation.
Yes.
It's okay. It's all right. It's what you do about it that matters. She's all about frame of mind. So, like, if you can think about what you need to do while you're there and not sort of get down about it. You know, she says, you know, there's a mental adjustment that needs to be made when you're in space. You're in a whole new situation.
Yep.
You've got to adjust from being in one kind of free environment that you can, you know, can walk around, do what you want, to being in a space station, basically like a, you know, tin can, if I can borrow from David Bowie.
Well done.
So, yeah, there you go. You know, she said there's the non-technical aspects of being in space, which, you know, one of them is how well we get along with others. Like, that's a very important thing to consider when you're in space. You're in space with two other astronauts. You didn't know them before. You've had to train with them now, and you have to make sure that you get along with these people that you're with. So it applies even to home. When we're at home, we need to get along with our family members or whoever we have to be isolated with, because it's really going to affect your time. So if you can't get along with the astronauts in the space station, you're not going to do a good job. If you can't get along with your family members, this is going to be a really difficult time.
Yes.
Very hard time. So if you're stressed, recognize that you are stressed, and then you can do something about it. There's a lot of help out there now. So groups, phone numbers, all sorts of support. So don't stay stressed. Reach out, get some help. Deliberately try to act for the benefit of the group. So in the space station, they have to work as a team. If they don't work as a team, things are going to go terribly wrong. So they all conduct different experiments on the space station. They have a schedule they have to stick to. They've got to work for the good of the scientific community. When they're out doing an EVA outside of, you know, doing maintenance on the space station, someone's inside helping them, you know, to conduct, to kind of guide them, as well as NASA on the ground or whoever's on the ground, communicating with them. And you've got to work with your other astronaut buddy outside, making sure that you're both keeping safe and you're both able to do the work.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you've got to really keep an eye on each other, make sure that you're both clipped onto the station so that you don't fly away. Like, it's simple things like that, but you've got to work for the good. So with us, we have to work, being isolated at home, staying at home means that we are working for the benefit of the whole community. We are not going out unnecessarily, which means we reduce our risk of picking up this COVID-19 disease. We reduce the risk of spreading it to our family. We reduce the risk of spreading it to people at risk, elderly, those who are unwell, pregnant women, you know, those who are compromised for some reason. So staying at home, it can be hard, but we are doing it for the benefit of the whole population. She says we're all in this together. So I mean, I think we've all heard that many times now. And we've even got a song by Ben Lee. We're all in this together.
Oh,
It's going through my
yeah.
head right now. Yeah, it's going through my head.
Oh,
yeah.
that's
So
the artist.
stuck in my
That's
head.
the artist. Yeah.
Yeah.
What is
So
it?
which is true.
Oh,
Like,
this is
practically
together.
the whole earth is in this together.
That's
you know,
true. That is
we're
true.
all
Yeah.
staying at home doing this to protect our whole human race. And then she points out, you know, there are benefits of staying at home, because I think a lot of parents, especially, it's very hard to be at home all day with your children all day, especially when mine are playing and they're always making these high-pitched noises which drive us quite mad.
Yes. Yes.
And it's like,
Oh.
quiet, I can't hear, quiet. But it's kind of my
Yeah.
fault, because I introduced them to that Pikmin game on the Nintendo, and they
Oh,
have
no.
high
Yeah, yeah,
voices.
yeah.
But
Of course.
anyway, you know, it's okay. They have fun. But so there are benefits of staying at home. So spending more time with our kids, with our loved ones, which is true. Like, we're all spending more time with our spouses and our children and whoever else you may be at home with. So participating in the kids' education, which very soon I am going to
Yeah.
be teaching my children from next week. Or
Yep.
from the week after Easter. The teachers are already sending videos and sending little tasks. So we've been doing those tasks at home.
Wow.
I've been, you know, encouraging Frankie with his maths. I've been helping Harry to write. We've got some activity books here. So that's been kind of good for me, you know, learning how to teach them and understanding how my kids learn.
Yes.
And then
Yes.
she said, you know, there's things you can do at home that you've never probably had time to do, like clean out the garage or paint that thing, or, you know, just clean the gutters
Yes.
or
Yeah.
whatever little task that you just leave to the end you just never have the time for.
Yeah, the time for. Yes.
And then she said, so like on the space station, do these things. Stay ahead of the mental game, set goals, be intentional about what you think about.
Yes. Yep.
And then she said, we can all be successful if we do those things. So I think that's some really good advice that she's given. Isn't that interesting? Like, to have the parallel of being in the space station and applying it to this situation at the
Yeah.
moment of us having to stay at home.
Oh, that's yeah.
Yeah, it really works out so well. I thought the video was really inspiring. I didn't think that she was going to say anything that I hadn't thought of, or any of us haven't thought of, that's common sense. But the way she says it, the way she breaks it down into 5 things, and the way she talks about it is, you know, it's really, she's really looking about the care of every person that's involved in your group or your family or your team, whoever it is that you end up being isolated with. Even things like, you know, there was one takeaway she said, in that being intentional, be intentional about the positive things that you say to people who are in the
yep.
place with you. So she was saying, you know, be intentionally positive, be deliberate about being positive, which was great. And even things like do a task for someone. If you notice someone is getting stressed, don't wait for that stress to build up. Offer to do a task for them so that they can have some time out to read or relax or whatever else. So there's some good things there. Jared and Lino, any like very really quick takeaways? Jerry, like just a really, because we've blown our time budget, but Jerry, is there a quick takeaway from that video that you wanted to quickly share with us?
Yeah, she did talk about things that if and when it does go back to normal, things that we'd miss. And when she said that, I was in my head, I was like, I'm not going to miss this. And then she talked about the time that you do spend with your family. I was like, oh, hang on, I am getting to spend while I'm working from home. I can still see and hear the kids as they do their education or just in there playing. And I'm not going to be able to see that when I go back to work. And that's what I look forward to when I work, is coming home to that.
Absolutely.
And so it was like a little light bulb when she mentioned that yes, going back to, was it Mother Teresa's about living for today? Well, this is what another thing to do is to live. This is what this is the hand we've been dealt today. Let's play it, because it doesn't look like a good hand compared to, say, 3 months ago or whatever, but it's still a good hand.
Yep, well said. Lena, you got a really quick fire takeaway from the video as well?
Just her 5 skills of being a team. Like Caroline said, communication, leadership, self-care, team care, and group living. That's those 5 things that is a good foundation in majority of our lives, and also nearly everything. Even from our families, and you guys know that I love my sport, that's it. They're there. You know, you communicate with your family and friends. You communicate with your a partner. You can communicate with your sports, whoever it is, and all those 5 things are great foundations of having a great team, and within the family, and just be just general. And the way she was talking about it, I was telling you guys before, I had to what is it again? Just buffer it back, where she's American, and I was like, oh, she's talking so fast. Okay, buffer it back a bit more. Okay, what did you say then? I'll buffer it back again. None of those things was just talking very fast. It just, I want to listen to what she was saying about those 5 steps and what it can have connection with your family. So it was great. Thanks for that, Caroline. It really opened my eyes with that one. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no, I thought she did. I loved that parallel of, you know, being in space and being at home. How similar they can be. I had no idea.
Definitely.
Our homes are like little international space stations at the moment.
Isn't that cool to think about?
Yeah. We can't go for a spacewalk, you know, or whatever we want.
You can go on your roof.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah. On that note, we'll wrap up there. So, all right. We want to thank everyone for joining us for episode 30 of the Catholics of Oz. So before we go, we'd like to take a moment to thank some of our patrons who make it possible for us to create the Catholics of Oz. Today, we want to thank Kim L., Laura M., Matthew B., Sailing L., and Amy Z. Through their generous donations at sqpn.com/give, they make it possible for the Catholics of Oz and all of our other shows at StarQuest to continue. So you can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. Also, we'd love to know your thoughts about the topics we've discussed today. So you can share your ideas about this episode at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia. Just look for the post about this episode. And we also have our own Facebook page, and we'd love for you to join us there. And you can join us at facebook.com/Catholics of Oz, spelt OZ. And talk about anything that we've talked about today. You know, talk about the volume of Lito's laughter. That's an added bit of spice to our episode today. So bring it a joy for us.
Sorry, Dom.
Yeah. So he's going to wonder what that new noise is. Yeah. So we can also be reached by email at catholicsofOz@sqpn.com. Don't forget our show notes. So all the links, all the things that we've been discussing can be found at sqpn.com/Oz. Caroline, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you. It was a good time.
And Jerry, thank you for being with us as well.
My pleasure. Thanks.
And Lino, thank you for being a great guest on the show.
Thanks, everyone. Take care. God bless.
And once again, I'm Lindsay Sant. Thank you for listening to the Catholics of Oz on StarQuest, and happy Easter.